The Venture Bros is one of those shows that never got the attention it deserved. Though it started off just alright,
Execution.
I'm in.
something happened 2 to 3 seasons in, and it became somewhat unique and insane. With 7 freaking seasons, all the characters, even a random henchman, got interesting character development and grew over time.
These Nancy Boy freaks thought it would be funny to test the merchandise.
While it's mostly comedy, the depth of the series makes it worthwhile, and jokes often get paid off in later seasons. With that, let's get right into it. Like always, let's set some context for better understanding.
Aliens! Battle station!
The series circles the lives and adventures of the Venture family, emotionally insecure and underachieving super scientist Dr. Thaddeus Rusty Venture. We got his clueless teenage twin sons, Hank and Dean, the family's bodyguard and secret agent named Brock Sampson. Last but not the least, the Monarch, a butterfly-themed supervillain.
Council of 13, so my old number 2 will be my boss.
That's nothing.
Throughout the series, the Monarch really wants to beat Dr. Venture, but he's not very good at it. He comes up with big plans, but they usually go wrong in funny ways. Despite being a bad guy, he's more funny than scary. The real reason why he hates the Venture family is unknown. There are a few theories which talk about the real reason behind it. We will disclose them at the end of the video, so make sure to stick till the end. In Japan, henchman Kikai tells his master, Otaku Senzuri, about Dr. Venture's new invention. Angry, Senzuri tries to kill Kikai with needles, but instead, Kikai feels better and even stops craving nicotine. Meanwhile, Monarch has a plan to destroy Dr. Venture, and he fills a fake meteor with his henchmen. The meteor will land at the Venture compound, and when Dr. Venture checks it out, the henchmen will attack him. On the other hand, Dr. Venture's sons, Hank and Dean, are looking for their dog, Scamp. They find out that their father has experimented on Scamp, leaving the dog skinless but still alive. Their bodyguard, Brock Sampson, gets their jet ready for a trip to New York. However, before they leave, Brock beats up a fake mummy he finds. As the family leaves for New York, the Monarch's meteor lands at the Venture compound but gets ignored, and the henchmen inside are trapped. In New York, Senzuri follows Dr. Venture, steals a case containing Hank and Dean, and leaves them in an alley. The boys decide to explore the city, with Monarch following them. Brock tracks down some thugs who stole the boys' communicator watches and beats them up. Meanwhile, Hank and Dean meet a hooker, misunderstand her intentions, and run away. The Monarch tries to follow them but gets beaten up by Brock.
But ow! Ow!
At the UN, Dr. Venture demonstrates his invention, the O-Ray, which melts a model city and shocks the audience. A general decides to buy 100 O-Rays for the army. Hank and Dean finally find their father at the UN, while Dr. Venture catches Senzuri doing something inappropriate near the O-Ray, and Senzuri gets arrested. Dr. Venture then sells his invention to the army, still unaware of its dangerous potential. On the other hand, Brock, being the alpha male he already is, spends some lovey-dovey time with the hooker, and the Monarch ends up in the hospital from his injuries. Dr. Venture is giving a lecture in Tijuana, but only a few students attend because it's the Day of the Dead, and he's quite disappointed because his fee is in pesos. Outside, his sons Hank and Dean show off their new sombreros and sugar skulls. A tiny spy butterfly from the Monarch lands on him. The Monarch thinks someone betrayed him and fires henchman 37, then sends Speedy and other henchmen to watch Venture. Dr. Venture sends his sons to buy fireworks while he looks for medicine. The henchmen capture the boys, but Brock sees them. The hot-headed guy then fights the henchmen, who tranquilize him. Still, he grabs Speedy, but Speedy dies in the struggle. On the other hand, the Monarch is happy because he thinks Brock is dead and plans to ransom the boys. Meanwhile, Dr. Venture wakes up in a bathtub, realizing his kidney has been stolen. To stay alive, he uses his robot, Helper, and tracks Brock's signal, finding him alive in a shallow grave. The Monarch tells Dr. Girlfriend that he is searching for the butterflies he grew up with after his parents died. She suggests that he should care for Hank and Dean instead. Dr. Venture and Brock head to the Monarch's lair. Brock crashes his car into the lair, running over henchmen, while Dr. Venture rescues his sons. Much to their dismay, the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend escape. Back on their plane, Dr. Venture needs a kidney, so he casually takes one from each son after they tie in rock, paper, scissors. What a prime example of fatherly love, right? Necromancer Byron Orpheus becomes the compound's new tenant, and Dean instantly falls for his daughter Triana. Brock rescues Hank from being lured into Rusty's new invention, a machine that shows people their greatest pleasures. Brock gets pulled into the machine, and the boys follow him in, covering their heads to avoid the visions but ending up locked inside with him. Orpheus senses a dark power coming from the machine, and Rusty admits he is powering it with an orphan's heart. Orpheus tries to open the machine but fails until Triana enters. When she says Dean's name, Orpheus is able to open the door. Luckily, Orpheus makes the machine disappear to prevent it from trapping anyone else.
That court has sent us to investigate this,
Later, Rusty tries to get Dean out of the bathroom and Dean explains he is practicing being a boyfriend, so Rusty, out of disgust, quickly leaves him alone. After the X1 is pulled over by the military, Brock finds out that his OSI license is expired. The boys help him study and train for the exam. Even though he ignores all the rules, he still passes and kills a bartender who mocked him when he was unlicensed. Meanwhile, Rusty feels insecure after one of the soldiers mocks his age, so he tries to find a date. Disguised as someone else, Dr. Girlfriend seduces him and injects him with a serum that turns him into a giant caterpillar. As Rusty starts to cocoon himself, a guilty Dr. Girlfriend returns and injects him again with a serum that turns him back to normal. Later, Rusty emerges from the cocoon as himself again. Before the Monarch can torture the Ventures, Dean begs him to stop because of sudden pain in his genitals. Rusty cites a law of the Guild of Calamitous Intent, the villain organization the Monarch is part of that forces him to stop the torture temporarily. Rusty takes Dean to his albino college friend, Pete White, and Pete's scientist roommate, Billy Quizboy Whalen. Billy discovers that Dean has a testicular torsion and fixes it. Meanwhile, the Monarch takes Hank and Brock as collateral. Brock notices that the Monarch has nothing to do other than go after Rusty, so he starts a fight with the Monarch's men out of pity. Before the fight can reach its climax, Rusty calls to say that Dean is healed. The Monarch prepares to torture the Ventures again, but Hank suddenly suffers from torsion himself and asks him to stop. The Ventures then star in a public service announcement about testicular torsion. The Ventures attend the funeral of Rusty's old friend, Mike Sorayama. His mechanical coffin is rigged to kidnap Brock, Pete, Rusty, and Underpipe, all of whom he knew in college. Sorayama has faked his death and explains that they all hurt his chances of asking out his crush. Brock escapes using Underpipe's metal jaw, and the boys call Jonas's old friends Team Venture for help. The team includes the suave Colonel Gentleman, the violent Action Man, and the super strong Kano. Team Venture locates Sorayama, destroys his robots, and disguises themselves as his robots. However, Brock mistakes them for real robots and beats them up, accidentally killing Sorayama. The Ventures discover that Sorayama was actually a robot and the real Sorayama is dead. They leave, forgetting Pete and Underpipe. In a flashback, Brock, who was Rusty's college roommate, leaves school to join the army and tells Rusty about Jonah's death. The Monarch is put on trial for killing a police officer. During the trial, a henchman publishes an embarrassing biography about him that exposes Dr. Girlfriend's past. Furious that she used to work for several male, higher-ranking villains, the Monarch kicks her out. Dr. Girlfriend testifies that she went back to Phantom Limb and that a drunken Monarch stormed over to his house. Orpheus is called to the stand to read a Monarch's mind. He reveals that while urinating on Phantom Limb's lawn, the Monarch was caught by the officer. The Guild had drugged the Monarch and paid the officer to fake his death. Before Orpheus can reveal this, Guild agents freeze everyone in the room. The entire situation is revealed to be a sting to capture the attorney opposing the Monarch. Phantom Limb hypnotizes Orpheus to implicate the Monarch,
who wants to hurt the Venture family, and once he's put away,
while Dr. Girlfriend hypnotizes the Monarch to believe she was not involved. Now in prison, the Monarch forgives a visiting Dr. Girlfriend, who is actually Henchman 24 in her clothes and wig. Rusty uses the deaths of the boys as an excuse to run away and avoid his responsibilities, only to be found and dragged back to the compound by Brock. JJ has become more successful than him in his absence, having partially completed a teleporter that he asks him to finish. When Rusty unplugs it while standing inside, he accidentally splits his body into thirds and teleports him across the compound. Orpheus is shocked to learn that the boys have cloned backups, having died many times, and Rusty explains that their learning beds that school them in their sleep are used to restore their brains. The imprisoned Monarch plots an escape, but the Guild catches wind of it and Phantom Limb bribes his accomplices to back out. When the Monarch is cornered by guards, accomplice King Gorilla is moved by his desperation to win Dr. Girlfriend back and helps him escape through the sewer line. The Monarch emerges outside the prison and finds the last third of Rusty's body. Rusty returns from a trip to Japan being followed by an Oni. The boys are kidnapped by Myra Standish, a woman who claims to be Rusty's former bodyguard and the boys' mother. She happens across Rusty and kidnaps him as well, forcing Brock to rescue them. Kindly villain advisor Dr. Henry Killinger accosts the Monarch and takes over and improves the cocoon, convincing 24 to side with him. 21 goes to Dr. Girlfriend for help, who fights her way to the Monarch, only for Killinger to reveal he set things up so they could make amends. Killinger summons the Oni, planted by him to reunite Mira and Rusty, and commends it for at least indirectly helping the boys to be rescued. Brock kills a new Monarch henchman during a raid on the compound and is unable to shake his guilt over the idea that the man could have turned his life around. He goes to an order ceremony and has an epiphany about his work that reinvigorates him. Rusty rebuilds the dead henchman as Venturstein, a low-functioning monster he tries to sell to the military. A psychotic gang of detectives stumble onto the compound and come across the boys, who they had killed before and are unaware of their clones. They chase the boys into the room that houses the clones, where Brock and Venturstein rescue them. Rusty passes off the clones as Christmas gifts to calm the boys. Brock takes Venturstein to find a woman to have fun with as an apology for killing him. The Monarch proposes to Dr. Girlfriend, having been seeing her behind Phantom Lim's back. She agrees on the condition that he no longer pursues Rusty, but his henchmen kidnap the Ventures as a gift on the day of the wedding.
Stay back, sir. Got you covered.
He convinces Dr. Girlfriend that he brought the Ventures to the Cocoon as guests. An annoyed 24 sends Dean away, and he winds up in the Cocoon's engine room. Dr. Girlfriend is walked down the aisle by David Bowie. Before the couple can be wed, Phantom Limb surrounds the Cocoon with his henchmen despite being denied retaliation by guild leader the Sovereign, and orders Dr. Girlfriend returned to him. Bowie's treacherous men, Iggy Pop and Klaus Nomi, incapacitate him and take Dr. Girlfriend, while Brock takes command of the henchmen and organizes them to fight Phantom Limb's forces. Phantom Limb reveals to Dr. Girlfriend that the Sovereign was Bowie, making him the new Sovereign. Pop accidentally frees Bowie, who kills him and Nomi before dueling Phantom Limb. The Order, summoned after Orpheus sensed the Ventures were in trouble, crashed the X1 into the Cocoon's engine room, where Dean is hallucinating a fantasy adventure because of the fumes. Rusty and the Monarch eject themselves from the downed Cocoon, colliding with Phantom Limb's ship, who escapes after losing an arm and leg in the crash. Dean rides home on top of the X1 to stave off the rest of his mania, while Dr. Girlfriend admits something unheard to the Monarch that shocks him. Dr. Girlfriend and the Monarch are separately grilled by the Guild's Council of 13, who are putting the Monarch on trial for improper arching. Flashbacks reveal that he was originally a Phantom Limb henchman and arched Rusty in secret, where he met Dr. Girlfriend. He dressed as the Monarch at a party specifically to woo her, earning Phantom Limb's contempt and convincing the Council of his innocence in the present. They reveal that the entire ordeal was a test to certify Dr. Girlfriend and the Monarch's official dual villain status under the Guild. The Monarch's henchmen are taken over by Dr. Girlfriend's henchmen, the two Muppets, who order them to rebuild the Cocoon. Henchmen 21 and 24 contact Brock to try and have him kill them, but he instead helps rebuild the Cocoon just as the Guild arrives to assist them. The Muppets stab 24 when he dumps a cooler of Gatorade on them, and the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend, now Sheila, move into Phantom Limb's old house. Phantom Limb tracks down and kills a villain the Monarch pretended to be while seducing Dr. Girlfriend. As Rusty's finances turn dire and he refuses to accept another loan from JJ, he is approached by Killinger, who turns the compound around and forces Rusty to confront his fear of success that stems from Jonas and his childhood. Despite how well-liked Killinger is by the Ventures, Orpheus is unsettled by him and becomes determined to beat him when Killinger evicts him. He convinces Brock and the Alchemist to help him. Killinger reveals to Rusty that he has been grooming him to be a guild supervillain that arches JJ, and Orpheus and friends break in to find Rusty signing Killinger's falling out agreement. Rusty goes through his long, unopened mail and finds a deadly but deceased cobra from the Monarch. Billy hits his head, causing him to remember his past, but Pete knocks him out before he can do anything. Flashbacks reveal that Billy was a disgraced game show contestant after Pete, the host of a show he was colluding with, cheats for him. After Rusty rejects them when they ask for a job, Pete accidentally enlists Billy in a dogfight that loses him his eye and hand. He abandons Pete and is found by Gathers and Brock, who equip him with his robot hand and have him go undercover at Phantom Limb's college. Phantom Limb makes him his research assistant and reveals that his limbs are shriveled, making him a laughingstock amongst his family, and he has built a machine with help from the Guild to grow them. It explodes during a test, regrowing his limbs, but also vanishing them. Brock is reassigned to guard Rusty by a Guild agent posing as OSI, and he brings Billy back to Pete after wiping his memory. In the present, Billy wakes up in the Venture compound, remembering everything and attacks Brock. Brock dismantles his car and realizes the OSI is after him for not killing Rusty. As Heat and the Ventures flee, the Monarch arrives to find the compound empty. He discovers hatred in the bathroom, depressed over his wife leaving him and demanding Rusty kill him. Sheila manipulates Helper into giving her Rusty's location. Cocktease and Gathers confirm to Brock that 3 assassins have been sent to kill him, and the first one attacks. He boards the X-1 to escape, but the ejector pod lands on top of the assassin after he shoots out one of its engines. Brock goes to shore Relive, a former OSI agent, for assistance and is attacked by the second assassin, who drags him into the ocean and tries to get him eaten by sharks. Brock tricks him into decapitating himself on a shark's teeth. The Ventures lay low in a motel, only for Brock to realize they are rooming across from the third assassin. He nearly kills Brock, but Hank distracts him long enough to make him impale himself on his own sword. As Brock orders Hank to call the cleaner, the police arrive to arrest the Ventures, only for them to be freed by the cleaner. General Timothy Treister located them at the same time. Brock convinces them to come to the compound independent of each other. Bozy forces and Monarch henchmen attack each other, while 21 and 24 hide in the Monarch's car. Helper, equipped by the Monarch with a bomb, gets in the car and drives off with 24 still inside. Hatred commands the boys' clones into the battle, halting it only for the Monarch to emerge in a new, untested suit that destroys the clones and immediately crashes. Treister reveals to Brock that the OSI only came to help him after he was attacked by the assassins, and a disillusioned Brock decides to quit. He goes to take the Monarch's car only for Helper to explode, killing 24. Cocktease and her squadron of female assassins, including Gathers, celebrate the other top assassins being eliminated, having set them up because she knew Brock would kill them. Brock wakes up on the OSI mother ship with Helper's head embedded in his chest. He escapes and has it removed before hunting down Cocktease for revenge. He bumps into an agent of anti-OSI villain hunting group Sphinx, looking to take her down as well, distracting him and allowing her to shoot him. More Sphinx agents take him away and he awakens in their hideout, where Gathers reveals that the gender change was a front to infiltrate Cocktease's operation, and he, Shoreleave, and other OSI agents defected to Sphinx. The now competent 21 tries to pay Rusty to clone 24 with the first issue of Marvel Comics, but he declines and Hank takes it, its value being decreased as it is damaged over the course of the episode. Nazis try to force Rusty to clone a dog with Adolf Hitler's blood in it, but Dean gets attached to the dog and refuses to kill it. Orpheus kills the Nazis, but the dog escapes. While holding the boys hostage, the Monarch is attacked by solar-powered hero Captain Sunshine, who takes Hank with him to be his new sidekick. Hank finds him to be unstable and deeply attached to him. Rusty tries to pay the Monarch's ransom, but the Monarch only gives back Dean and steals the payment, unaware that a shrunken Hatred is hiding in the bag. He sees the Monarch tracking Sunshine and forwards his location to Rusty, who will get the payment back via guild law if he rescues Hank first. Rusty and the Monarch converge on Sunshine's mansion, and the Monarch corners him with a solar weapon, which only strengthens Sunshine. Sunshine sees Hank with Rusty, contradicting his story that he was an orphan, and disgustedly orders him to leave. Obsessively talking to Henchman 24's skull, Henchman 21 vows to hunt down his killer. He kidnaps the boys from the compound and tries to make them confess. He admits that 24's death is what motivated him to get into shape, but is also the only thing that drives his actions and lets them go. Hatred calls Sheila, suspecting the Monarch's involvement in the boys' disappearance, and she offers to meet with Rusty directly. She lies to the Monarch, who is missing a photo shoot because of an allergic reaction about where she is going, and he bitterly suspects she is doing her own shoot. He finds 21 in his treehouse and accuses him of trying to overthrow him. 21 instead expresses his admiration for the Monarch's genuine hatred, and he decides to let 21 have the tree fort for a little longer, planning to burn it. Phantom Limb kidnaps and wounds Councilman Redmantle and Dragoon, having Billy sew the latter's head onto the former's body to save his life. He gets the location of the orb from Billy just as the guild arrives to get help from Rusty, so he has Redmantle and Dragoon break in and steal the orb for him. He confronts the Sovereign with it and demands the title of Sovereign due to his grandfather being the founder of the guild. The Sovereign reveals that the man usurped his power and the true heir is Dean because of his great-great-grandfather preventing Phantom Limb from ever being sovereign. Phantom Limb tries to activate the orb, but a flashback reveals that Sandow disobeyed his orders and broke the orb instead of killing Lloyd. Phantom Limb is arrested and Dean returns the title of Sovereign. Torrid opens a portal to Hell and is sucked in, and the order is saved from the demon that comes through by the Outrider, a powerful sorcerer who is Orpheus' ex-wife's new partner. Embarrassed, Orpheus tries to build a portal himself despite the Master's warnings that the Outrider is more talented and goes back to Torrid's portal when he fails. The Outrider emerges, having rescued Torrid, who grapples with him and sends his spirit to Hell. The Order performs a ritual that allows them to be sent to Hell, but only the Alchemist and Orpheus go through. They meet the Outrider, who explains to Orpheus that he continuously practices risky magic to get where he is. while Orpheus gave up everything to learn it properly, something he admires. Jefferson, having the ability to act as a gateway between two worlds, pulls them back. Triana discovers that the Master's portal is in her closet, who points out that her ability to see him makes her magic, and she should train herself with her mother and the Outrider right away. While pretending to be a doctor at a hospital, Billy notices a trio of mute, sinister businessmen known as the Investors stealing the heart of the dying King Gorilla. They kidnap him and take him to Monstroso, who treats Billy lavishly and arranges for him to have fun with a trio of girls. Billy believes he is being groomed to be turned into a vampire, but Monstroso explains that he made a deal with King Gorilla for his heart upon his death, his own heart failing him, and he licenses Billy as a doctor so he can perform a heart transplant. Tracking the Investors through a homing device in Billy's hand, Brock and Shore leave sneak on to Monstroso's yacht. The Investors easily escape them, and Brock comes across Billy in the middle of surgery. Brock tries to convince him to let Monstroso die, but Billy insists upon finishing properly. Billy finishes the surgery and informs Brock, revealing they have moved to the Sphinx compound. Brock asks if he can kill Monstroso. Gathers meets with Treister to negotiate Sphinx being left alone in exchange for handing over Monstroso, but when he reveals that Monstroso told him there are guild moles inside the OSI, Treister turns into a Hulk and rampages. Cardholder and Doe reveal that Treister actually has prostate cancer, and they have been manipulating him to think otherwise, planning to take over when he is deemed too insane to run it. They detain Gathers and go to kill Monstroso, but Treister summons him to the control room and reveals he knows of Cardholder and Doe's deception, having recruited Sphinx to hide in a fake Monstroso body and detain them. Impressed with Gathers' skill and bravery, he gives him control of the OSI and launches himself into space so aliens can cure his cancer. Rusty throws a prom for the boys at the compound, and Triana goes with Dean as a friend but leaves in disgust when he cannot get over the fact that she has a boyfriend. Rusty invites several escorts to the prom and drugs them with a lustful chemical made from a mutant fly. Henchman 21, burying Henchman 24's skull where he died but still being plagued by visions, is invited, and Orpheus helps him realize that he was imagining 24. The Monarch gets in by bribing Hatred with his ex-wife and approaches 21, assuming he is doing undercover work, but Henchman 21 quits. Cocktease, undercover in Sphinx, kidnaps the real Monstroso. Brock's pursuit of her ends with her car on the edge of a cliff, and she reveals that she is dating Monstroso and the escorts are actually her assassins that will kill everyone unless she calls them off. When Brock threatens to kill Monstroso, she sends the car off the cliff with her inside, and he races back to the compound to find everyone dancing with the escorts, who have been drugged by Rusty. They mutate into insect creatures and Brock leaps into battle. Brock finds that Monstroso's body is a fake while Sphinx returns to the OSI, leaving 21 as its only agent. A dejected Dean burns his learning bed, and he and Hank take separate rooms. Jaja reminds Rusty that he agreed to build an energy shield for the in-progress Gargantua 2, so he sources interns from a college to work on it and gets a loan from wealthy memorabilia purchaser Augusta Street Cloud, Billy's arch-nemesis. The radiation the shield emits mutates the workers, and they begin eating the non-mutated assistants. The Monarch, still in denial about 21 quitting and believing Rusty is making mutant warriors, asks Sheila to make some of their own. The interns finish the shield but lock it inside their living area, planning to use it to mutate the world. 21 takes control of the situation and sends Billy and Pete to get a decontamination device Rusty sold to Street Cloud. He agrees to give it back if Billy can beat him in a trivia battle, which he narrowly does. A mutant Dean has been flirting with him fight their leader, and he wins, being crowned the mutant king.
It is the dawn of the second age, you guys!
As Rusty releases an improvised antidote, the cocoon arrives and the Monarch unleashes his mutants, which Sheila reveals are actually butterflies full of antidote serum. The next day, Rusty hands over the cleaned and finished shield. The Monarch proclaims his love for Sheila, both of them high on Rusty's antidote, which flooded into the cocoon through the butterfly tube. Henchman 21, trying to work as a crime fighter, clashes with the OSI. He puts out an ad for more people to join Sphinx, attracting its old villainous members and Hank, who is given a Sphinx-strength suit. The old members commandeer the Sphinx ship and plan to use it to attack the OSI mother ship, but Brock and Shore leave stop them. A guilty 21 laments his failure, but Brock assures him he had good intentions. The Monarch and Sheila infiltrate the compound in disguise and plant bombs in its tunnels, but the Monarch is shocked to find a picture of him and Rusty as children with Jonas and his parents behind them, a meeting he does not remember. Hatred finds the bombs and assumes 21 is responsible. He has Dean leave them in front of Sphinx headquarters and tries to get him to talk about his attitude, but Dean does not reveal what is troubling him. As Gathers destroys the empty Sphinx ship, the Monarch detonates the bombs, unwittingly destroying the headquarters. The OSI captures Monstroso and Cocktease. Knowing the guild will kill him no matter what, Monstroso explains what the council is to Brock and identifies one of their members, Boggles the Clue Clown. When Brock asks about the investors, they appear and kill Monstroso. Cocktease escapes confinement and Hank, on board to refill Hatred's anti-pedophile medication, pursues her in the Strength suit. She easily defeats him and takes it. Brock follows her to one of the engines of the mother ship and throws her into it. The federal agents who have been getting an account of the situation leave, and a flashback reveals that Gathers stopped Brock from killing Cocktease, explaining that she was hired to kill all the OSI double agents on board and are working for them now, and Brock throws the empty Strength suit into the engine. Gathers marks Cocktease as deceased only for the real agents to enter to interview them about the situation. The agents, actually the investors, vanish. Hank, his limbs weakened from wearing the suit for weeks, rehabilitates them while Gathers expresses sympathy over his loss of the suit talents. The OSI spy on Bobble's funeral and identifies cyborg Councilman Vendetta. Shunned by his peers because of his limited emotions, he posts a request for a date with another robot on guild forums, and the OSI disguise Hero Ghost Robot as villain Galacticon and has him go with Vendetta.
So it is with great pleasure.
They leave the restaurant to go to Councilman Don Hell's club, and Brock and Shore leave disguise themselves as villains and follow him in. Rusty, believing they are going to a party, follows them with Billy, and they are caught by Hell's men. Vendetta catches Brock and Ghost Robot in the bathroom, and Brock beats up and strips him, disguising himself as Vendetta. They move to leave when the real Galacticon arrives, only for Don Hell to reveal he has Rusty and Billy on the Wheel of Torture and invite them to play. Brock steals the winning token so he can stall for time, while Shore Leave cuts through the suspension of the club's giant disco ball, but they are stopped by the Monarch arriving. Sheila uses guild law to prove that the torture is illegal. Rusty and the Monarch are left alone, only for the ball to fall on the former. Sheila is invited by the Sovereign to join the council, but she asks to talk it over with the Monarch. The Revenge Society observes this in secret, now working with killing her. Believing Rusty to be dead, Hatred sends the boys to their godfathers. Dean goes to live with Colonel Gentleman, who has him document his old stories for his memoirs. Hank goes to Boca Raton to live with the Action Man in his retirement community, where they bury Endman after the Action Man accidentally crushed him with his rocking chair. To fulfill a team venture tradition, he urinates on the grave and has Hank, the youngest present, defecate on it. Hank helps him win over his love interest, Billy's mother. Hatred reluctantly asks 21 for help infiltrating the cocoon and finding Rusty, but soon takes a liking to him. While one of the Moppets catches Hatred and convinces him that 21 sold him out, 21 convinces the henchmen that the Moppets killed 24. The Monarch repeatedly attempts to torture Rusty, but all of them fail. He gives up and decides to let him go, but claims to Sheila that he broke Rusty's will and grew tired of him. Just as 21 returns to the Monarch, Hatred launches a missile at the cocoon in revenge for his supposed betrayal, and the downed cocoon crashes into the Monarch's house and destroys it. The Monarch moves into his childhood Newark home with 21 as Sheila. Ant-Man's body is relocated to the compound. Hank asks Dean what has been troubling him, and he reveals that they are clones, but Hank is delighted by this, which seems to cheer Dean up. As people present urinate on the grave, Hank, realizing Dean is slightly younger than him, excitedly says, "You're gonna love this." While looking through Jiggy's inventions, Rusty accidentally frees a swarm of superhuman nanobots that enter Dean. 21 deduces that the cave belonged to the vigilant Blue Morpho, who the Monarch realizes was his father. He attends a guild event at Wide Wales, but is refused entry because he arrives in costume. Duplicating villain Copycat allows the Monarch to borrow a suit, but splits in two, drugs him, and steals his costume. He breaks into Rusty's penthouse and urinates on his furniture, while simultaneously pointing this out to Sheila, leaving her enraged that the Monarch is seemingly illegally arching Rusty. Hank, now working as a pizza delivery man, is called to deliver to Wide Whale, and realizes that his daughter Serena is the woman with gills. He navigates around Wide Whale's aggressive henchman Rocco so he can ask her out, and she accepts, attracted to his risk-taking. Dean painfully urinates out the nanobots and learns that with their help, he passed his college entrance exam. Shiloh relays her suspicions that Rusty is the Blue Morpho to the council, but they do not take her seriously. The Monarch drugs her so he can plant bombs in the vacant lair of the Dune Factory team, Rusty's new arch. The Dune factory distracts Rusty with their bizarre artistic presentations and steals his equipment, summoning their lair, which the Monarch gets stuck on. He escapes as they leave, and the detonator falls out of his jacket, setting off the bombs and killing the team. Hank and Serena go on their date, and Dean, Pete, and Billy help facilitate several random events that Hank put together to impress her. As Brock and Rocco pursue them, Serena admits she likes the lengths Hank will go to, and they kiss just as they are found and separated. Sheila wakes up to the Monarch also pretending to have been drugged, and she gets a call from Phantom Limb informing her of the Dune factory's death, agreeing to put guild resources into stopping Blue Morpho. Two villains wake up in a decrepit bathroom full of dead bodies, both chained to pipes. One of them learns that the other has been there for weeks and gone insane, who cannibalizes him like he did the dead men. The guild and the OSI stage a sting at Ventec Tower to catch Blue Morpho, where Watch, Ward, Gathers, and Councilman Phineas Phage disguise themselves as the Ventures and Helper. Suddenly, Rusty's feared new arch, Red Death, attacks. The Monarch and 21 convince Red Death's family to leave their home and call him, pretending to have kidnapped them. He storms the Morpho Cave, forcing the Monarch to explain his recent actions. Red Death expresses sympathy towards his determination and explains that he has to suppress his own urge to kill regularly, advising the Monarch to continue his quest. 21 reveals that he lost the nerve to kill the rest of the villains, arching Rusty, and that he locked them in the cave's bathroom, unaware that one had gone insane and killed the rest. Red Death agrees to waive his arching rights and not tell the guild what he learned in exchange for getting to kill the man. Guild Agent S-464 and OSI Agent Kimberly McManus, having fallen in love during the sting operation, agrees to reconnect next time they see each other. 2 years prior, JJ finds the problem light in the wreckage of Gargantua 1 and installs it in Ventec Tower's lobby. In the present, it drains the fluid from nearby bugs. The Ventures are troubled by their technology going haywire, and Dean calls the order. Rusty asks Pete to trace the source of the issue on the tower's computer, but a possessed helper attacks him. Billy tells Team Venture of the issue, and they hurry to Ventec Tower. Hank continues his relationship with Serena despite Wide Whale's efforts to keep him away, deciding to win Wide Whale's honor by infiltrating his house disguised as a villain and offering his service. Wide Whale agrees so long as he kills a restrained Monarch. The Order performs an exorcism in the lobby, and the problem light turns on. They open it just as Team Venture arrives, revealing that Jonas's barely living head is inside. Team Venture explains that the light exists to keep Jonas alive, and before Rusty can talk to him, Pete damages the light's mechanics, causing the tower to shake. 21 wakes up late to help the Monarch with his attempt on Wide Whale's life, getting the Monarch captured. Wide Whale unmasks him and reveals that his brother is Dr. Dugong, planning to kill him in revenge. With pressure from the guild mounting to capture Blue Morpho, 21 tries to reveal the truth to Sheila, but finds that the Morpho Cave has been replaced with an ordinary basement. They go to Red Death for help, who agrees in exchange for a seat on the council. He massacres the staff of an OSI records building and retrieves Dugong's file. As Wide Whale orders Hank to shoot the Monarch, 21 and Sheila stops him, and Red Death bursts into the penthouse with Dugong, regenerated from his starfish DNA, getting Wide Whale to stop. The group watches as someone driving Blue Morpho's car and wearing his outfit converges on Ventec Tower, the Monarch gleefully realizing that this exonerates him. The man in the Blue Morpho costume reveals himself to be Vendetta, and the shaking of the tower causes the Venture logo to fall onto the entrance, sealing everyone inside. The shaking stops when Vendetta plugs himself into the problem light so he can talk to Jonas. Various parties recount the story of the Blue Morpho. Blue Morpho obeyed Jonas because he was blackmailed with a tape, and Jonas had his wife swing by my compound when she was having trouble conceiving. When she became pregnant, Jonas took Kano as payment. After Blue Morpho died in a plane crash, Jonas made his remains into a cyborg, but Kano was forced to kill him after he tried to strangle Rusty while malfunctioning. Dr. Z found him and reprogrammed him into the evil Vendetta, who was taken by Red Death to hijack a movie night on Gargantua 1, where Jonas caught him trying to broadcast the tape. He told Vendetta that he was the Blue Morpho, prompting Vendetta to open the bay doors, killing Jonas. After Brock beat him up in Don Hell's club, he regained fragments of his memory and walked to Newark, putting on his old costume and seeking out Jonas. Back in the present, the Action Man has a stroke, and Pete uses the lobby's shrink raid to get Team Venture out of the tower. The Monarch breaks in, planning to kill Blue Morpho to clear his name. His presence distracts Blue Morpho, and he addresses him as Malcolm, prompting Jonas to seize him with the light's tendrils. Blue Morpho engages his thrusters, and they fatally crash. The Monarch addresses Blue Morpho as Daddy, and claims he killed both men when the guild arrives. At the Macy's Thanksgiving parade, Team Venture discusses the health of the Action Man, who is in a coma. A balloon of a young Rusty gets loose. Rusty seeks out Teresa Dide, a woman with shady rumors. The council meets with a partnership representative, who agrees to leave the guild alone if they are paid off. Sheila learns that to fully become the governing body of the guild, the council must perform one last arch and retire as villains. Red Mantle and Dragoon fearfully put off finding out who their arch is, only to learn that all of them are dead. Phantom Limb and Gathers have a meat measuring competition, which the former wins by an inch. Red Death does not read his arch letter and instead kidnaps the partnership man, ties him to a set of train tracks, and tells him that the guild will not submit, although his fate is left unknown. Doctors goes to Johnny's rehab clinic and they reminisce about their old battles. Sheila goes in her old costume with 21 to arch her nemesis, who turns out to be Dide. 21 convinces her to approach her and they reconcile. She later reveals to 21 that she stole Dide's wallet. Dide goes to meet Rusty, but he is so strung out on the anti-venoms Brock doses him with that he passes out. All the councilmen except Wide Whale join the council officially. When asked what her decision is, Sheila hesitates. New York is besieged by an unending blizzard, and the guild tasks the Monarch and 21 with killing hoarder villain the Creep, who they believe stole a guild weather machine and created it. He forces them to play lawn darts for their lives, but is distracted when Rusty and Billy come out of a stolen time machine, and Rusty addresses a Monarch as Malcolm and is killed by the dart. Rusty is tasked by the OSI destroying the machine, so he takes Billy to stop it, who pushes out a thermal suppository Rusty is having him test into the machine's vent. They discover that S-464 is operating the machine, who explains that he did it to get McManus' attention.
If you survive the most dangerous game.
Unable to get in touch with Serena, Hank hikes across the city and hits his head on a street light. He is found by a mute person in a bloodstained bear costume, who carries him to Dean's dorm, where he finds Serena cheating on him before passing out from his head wound. Sheila brings McManus to S-464, who detains her, his brain having been reprogrammed. Dean tries to apologize to Hank in coma state by listing off the ways he has been a bad brother and admits he wants things to go back to normal. Hank awakens in a world that is a cross between The Empire Strikes Back and the film Barbarella, realizing it is purgatory. He meets the Action Man, who reveals that his mother's name is Bobby Street Simone. Phage, in a coma after his cybernetic parts injure him during a teleporter test, saves them from a Wampa. Hank jumps into the Mathmos to escape. The guild uses Rusty's teleporter to break into Ventec Tower and take Rusty to Meteor Major. They leave behind a squadron of soldiers to subdue Brock, but as expected, he defeats all of them. The council hosts the Monarch's level 10 promotion ceremony on Meteor Major, where he and 21 are put through several tests. Henchman 21 is offered a villain role, and the council gives the Monarch the choice to kill Rusty. Annoyed, he decries the rituals and 21 sides with him, only for the council to reveal that the rejection was the final test. With Brock threatening to come through the teleporter if they do not send Rusty back, Watch and Ward go to fetch him, revealing in the process that they tested Rusty's blood and that he is related to the Monarch. Dean wakes up to learn that Hank has left the hospital, who vanishes into the crowd wearing his Batman mask, stating that it's time I grow up. The reason the Monarch hated Rusty is that he played Rusty in the TV show, which wasn't made until the real Rusty was a teenager. The whole filming experience was extremely traumatic for the Monarch, and that's why he developed extreme hatred against him. Another theory is that Rusty was the Monarch's best friend when they were kids. After Rusty died and was replaced by a clone, something happened where Rusty ignored the Monarch. The Monarch thought his best friend had betrayed him and decided to become his arch-nemesis. Last but not least, Jonas is responsible for why the Monarch hates Rusty so much. We know Jonas has no problem with manipulating people for his own ends, even his friends and family. He brainwashed the Monarch to hate Rusty in order to prevent his son from ever leaving the super science lifestyle. So that will be it from us if you enjoyed the video. Let us know which theory makes the most sense. Also, do not forget to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for similar content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next one.